Hey, I hope you guys are doing good today. We are going to be watching a video from Curious Archive today because it's been a while since we've watched one of his videos, and I really do enjoy his channel a lot. And I had come across the unicorn discrepancy, and that one kind of caught my eye. I thought this would be pretty entertaining and pretty interesting. I know there's a lot of crazy stuff surrounding unicorns, so I thought this would be kind of a fun one to watch. If you do get a chance, I'd appreciate if you can leave a like and subscribe. It helps me out a bunch, and I will have Curious Archives video linked in my description below. So be sure to give him a like, a follow, watch his videos, all that good stuff. He does a really good job. All right, let's learn about unicorns and all the wildness. Let's go.
Unicorn.
If I were to tell my younger self, the unicorn is the craziest f***ing fantasy creature of all time, I wouldn't have believed me. It's a horse with a traffic cone taped to its head. I'd never found it, but so interesting. But I've discovered this creature is a mythological enigma, a beast that outwitted emperors and naturalists alike, once destroyed Europe's economy, is potentially related to the rhino, the mammoth, and the orangutan? What creature has puzzled us like the unicorn?
Okay, we are like coming out of the gate swinging because I was not expecting this. I went through like a unicorn phase though when I was a kid where I really liked them. I thought they were really cool. I wanted one. So maybe that's more like a girl thing. I don't know.
And I have to know why. The history of the unicorn myth is so tangled that to try and unravel it is to glimpse madness. So says historian Chris Lavers in his book, The Natural History of Unicorns, and trust me,
There's a natural history of unicorns. I didn't even know that this book existed.
historian Chris Lavers in his book, The Natural History
This looks really kind of interesting though. I would be interested in reading this.
of Unicorns, and trust me, he isn't lying. Conflicting early Greek accounts claim the unicorn lived somewhere in India, though not all that specific. They also claimed the beast had red fur, a multicolored horn, and could, in one account, leap off cliffs if pursued by hunters, then land on top of their horn, which would absorb the shock, leaving the creature unharmed.
That seems like a horrible, horrible plan of its It seems incredibly dangerous, but that's why some of these stories are just so good though.
Top of their horn, which would absorb the shock, leaving the creature unharmed.
That's what so much of this stuff is. Oh yeah, Frank said he saw this thing.
Right away, there is a baffling amount of dissonance between the historical and contemporary unicorn, so I reached out to other YouTube creators to establish a baseline of what these creatures are and aren't.
I do wonder like where the mystical part comes from, because I feel like as far as like my childhood goes, I always remember unicorns as being like majestic rainbows, glitter everywhere, clouds and stuff. But I'm assuming it wasn't maybe that magical.
Creators to establish a baseline of what these creatures are and aren't.
Oh yeah, look, we got Tearsu. Tearsu's making an appearance. Yeah.
Heroic. Bright.
In my head, I went splendid.
Elusive. Good teeth. It's not really an adjective.
Good teeth.
Evidently, the glittery unicorn of our modern collective unconscious is quite different from its ancient ancestor. But how did we get here? When was the modern unicorn first captured?
Oh yeah.
The basic problem with tracking the unicorn through history is that the shape of its hoofprints keep changing. The Byzantine Shadavar was a horse-like creature whose hollow horn allegedly contained 42 holes, creating flute-like melodies when the wind blew. The Persian Carcharodon was a heavier...
I kind of like that one though. That one's kind of a cool little folklore for it.
creating flute-like melodies when the wind blew. The Persian Carcharodon was a heavier, leatherier beast, likely inspired by accounts of the rhino. The Chinese qilin was historically most closely associated with the giraffe, but has also been depicted as possessing a single horn. Fitting for an animal renowned for its elusiveness, it is highly difficult to ascertain how many of these legends influence the pastel equine of modern sticker books, but the unicorn's luck evading capture would, in time, violently run out. Around 1495, 7 tapestries called The Hunt of the Unicorn were made in the Netherlands, helping to codify not just the medieval Western image of the mythical creatures, but the now popular idea that they can be ensnared. Notably, everyone I talked to had an opinion on how one catches a unicorn.
Can I trank it?
Get candy. Get like sugar.
I'm sure Annette would do.
Trinket, candy, and sugar. I feel like all these theories are gonna be so wild.
Catches a unicorn.
Can I trank it?
Get candy. Get like sugar.
I'm sure Annette would do the trick.
Do some sort of elaborate forest-based trap.
Pretend to be in a situation of need.
Do the slow, like the
That
Chris
works.
Pratt, like with his hand out with the blue raptor,
Right.
as it's just
Yeah,
noshing on a bunch of nerds or something.
A lot of people mentioned luring the unicorn with candy, which is surprising for a folkloric being.
I don't know
Yeah.
where that comes from. I don't think like
That's a good question. Like, where does that come from? Because I would say that I feel like that seems like a very common choice to go to if you were trying to lure a unicorn is candy. Yeah, like where does that come from? And like why do we all think this?
Is surprising for a folkloric being.
I don't know where that comes from. I don't think like the Balrog is eating Red Hots.
But what's immediately notable is that everyone stressed a non-violent method of capture.
See, I don't want to hurt the unicorn.
Though the threads of the Hunt
Right.
of the Unicorn tapestries successfully ensnared the creature's appearance, there is ironically something unrecognizable about how gruesomely the detainment itself is depicted. It's aggressive, it's visceral, and like other art from the period, so detailed it could almost be a
Oh my
how-to
gosh.
guide for catching unicorns.
Or like how to hunt them? Cause they're all stabbing them. No.
So detailed it could almost be a how-to guide for catching unicorns. It genuinely might have been.
And why do these pictures look like this, where it's like like the woman's petting it and then it's getting stabbed? Like, I have so many questions.
Guide for catching unicorns. It genuinely might have been. Strange as it might sound today, the unicorn of the European Middle Ages was simply not considered mythical. Medieval bestiaries threw them in with all their other hilariously inaccurate animals. And to be fair, had you thought vipers gave birth from their backs and beavers bit off their own and then their all over the place, then a
What? Wait, what? Excuse me? What? I mean, like the steak thing, I was like, okay. Beaver thing, I had absolutely no idea. That's crazy. That is wild.
backs and beavers bit off their own and then their all over the place,
Oh my
then
god.
a horse with a magic horn probably didn't seem that weird. Indeed, it was something many were desperate to hunt. If, like most people in 16th century Europe, you A, believed in unicorns, and B, were low-key dying of a terrible illness, you might do just about anything to get your hands on one of their twirly healing sticks.
Their horns were both supposed to be able to cure and to detect poison. And if you were nobility or especially a king, knowing if your glass was poisoned is kind of a big deal.
A single
True.
horn could allegedly neutralize a toxin if ground into powder, or even sense poison like a metal detector, except instead of beeping, it would sweat.
The horn sweats?
So if I
The
had a unicorn
horn
horn
sweats.
and I just held it out in front of a bottle of arsenic, it would just start leaking fluid? That sounds gross.
But touted as a cure-all from
That sounds wild. I mean, this sounds like just magic stuff. Like just crazy magic stuff.
plague to assassinations, unicorn horns exploded as a lucrative commodity amongst aristocrats, with some horns supposedly worth half a city, 10 times their weight in gold, 20. It sounds impossible. It was also only the beginning. The first major breakthrough in selling people unicorns was the powder. To pass off an entire horn, you needed, pulling back the curtain, drumroll please, a narwhal tooth, as their
Oh.
spiralized tusks do look the part, and in the Middle
True.
Ages, most buyers had never heard of them. But to pass off the powder, you didn't need such a rare ingredient, just some sort of bone and no conscience. And it was a serious hustle. We don't have exact numbers, so saying it broke Europe's economy is somewhat hyperbolic, but it had a real effect. People wanted to buy, they wanted to believe. I can confirm people aren't
I kind of get that though. I mean, this is such like a far out thing, and depending on, I guess, maybe how this is advertised, I could kind of see people getting hyped up into it, or like buying into the hype of it, because it's like such an elusive thing to have, and if you can get your hands on some unicorn powder, like that'd be huge, right?
people wanted to buy, they wanted to believe. I can confirm people aren't as interested in purchasing unicorn horns anymore.
This could be radioactive for all I know.
Does it just kind of get sort of damp if I put it too close to my cleaning supplies?
Even when I lowered the hypothetical price. If the merchant swore it was a genuine horn, would you pay $3?
I might pay $3 to have someone get him away from me.
You said $2?
$3.
$3? Whoa, dude, I don't know.
But the horn wasn't the only part of the unicorn you could market. Got leprosy? Unicorn liver and 1 egg yolk will fix it. Bad joints? You need some unicorn skin shoes, yes indeed, and put their hoof under your plate. It'll, bless your food or something.
Oh my gosh.
Some tried to fight these scams. In the Natural History of Unicorns, Lavers points to a 17th century professor who spread word the horns were narwhal teeth, which actually made things worse because, and I'm not making this up, back then it was widely believed that all land animals had an undersea equivalent. So if there was a unicorn fish, there must genuinely be a unicorn.
Oh my god, so that made it worse when they were like, no, it's this. So the people were like, oh well, clearly if there's one in the water, there's gotta be one on land. So clearly unicorns are real and totally exist. Oh my gosh, that's actually kind of funny.
And so the hustle continued. It kind of never stopped.
That's kind of true.
Through no fault of its own, the unicorn has, over the centuries, become something of a commercial symbol. I'm not just talking about 16th century bone powder. To this day, the unicorn's sheer ability to sell products is extraordinary. The only fantastical creature who could hope to match its sheer economic potential is the dragon, which is fitting as the two beasts were often depicted as equal forces during the Middle Ages, locked in evenly matched combat. Well, today most people would bet on the dragon in a physical fight.
Dragon 100%.
We're talking about like a dragon, right?
I think it's GG 100% within the first 5 seconds.
But in a battle of moving, sparkly units, the unicorn is steep competition.
Of the fantasy kind of canon, it's one of the most commercialized creatures I can think of.
A cyclops.
That is true. I feel like if I were to think of fantasy creatures, unicorns would definitely be at the top of my list. Yeah, I would definitely say unicorns would be way up there.
On the side of a cereal box won't necessarily help market it to children, but a unicorn on the side, the symbol of all things ethereal and special, I mean, then it's gotta be good cereal.
True.
This is also where the candy thing probably comes from. Of course, these corporate beasts would be lured by branded sweets. The unicorn has always been a natural sticker. Historian Timothy Miller argues in his article, The Unicorn Trade, something that lends a sense of whimsy, rareness, and magic to what might otherwise be a cold corporate product. From the moment we first captured the unicorn, we've been selling it.
Yep. That's true.
When an incarnation of ephemerality is made immobile, something fleetingly glimpsed put on permanent display.
It's kind of crazy to see how this evolved into what it is today, or even from the 80s. I feel like the 80s is a big, 80s, 90s. There was a really big unicorn kind of phase that everybody went through, and then it's kind of come in and out throughout the decades. I feel because then you'll see it pop back up and the unicorn will be really popular again, but it seems like it is very pretty girly, or just really just majestic. I don't know any other word to say about it, they're magical, they're majestic looking. I don't I feel like a lot of girls kind of go through a unicorn phase. I know I did. I mean, obviously I can't speak for all girls, but I feel like it's kind of like a in that realm of like when you're playing with like My Little Pony or um other dolls and toys and stuff like that, that the unicorn definitely has a spot in there. And then with all this commercializing of it with turning it into candy, and we have so much unicorn stuff now. There's like unicorn poop, which is like marshmallows. It's like rainbow marshmallows or something. And then you have all these other candies and all kinds of stuff. Like it definitely has like become like this huge consumer item.
We've been selling it. When an incarnation of ephemerality is made immobile, something fleetingly glimpsed put on permanent display, said incarnation can never truly return to how it was before. This idea is the heart of Peter S. Beagle's 1968 novel The Last Unicorn, in which the final living unicorn becomes trapped within a mortal form and is therefore forced to contend with the base reality of human existence. It is a fable far darker than our modern associations with unicorns, spawning an equally grim animated adaptation which, if you'd asked young me if I liked it, I would have said yes, but I remember in my mind I was wigging out. That red bull monster dude, that really spooked me.
I've never heard of this. I kind of want to watch it now.
What's endured about The Last Unicorn is its treatise on how trying to possess a symbol can erode its meaning, how attempts to commodify the transcendental deface its poignance. As Miller writes in The Unicorn Trade, The Last Unicorn could be interpreted as a parable warning against the destructive desire to possess unicorns, and therefore there is a notable irony that the book's success helped launch a new unicorn marketing craze, one that's never fully let up. And to be clear, I don't have some moral leg to stand on in all this. Do you have any idea how many dragon toys I wanted to get my grubby little hands on when I was a kid? The mass market reality that all our symbols shall be sold and resold is, well, it's the reality we're living in.
Yeah.
But I think there is a distinctive tension between the elusive essence of the unicorn and its current and historical mercantile manifestations. Beagle's The Last Unicorn imagines a time where unicorns go unsold, but it's difficult, quite frankly, to even picture such a time.
That's true. But this movie seems like it's really sad. Like it seems like it's really sad. But I kind of want to watch it though. Like it looks like it's pretty good. And it I don't know. I like this art and this whole premise of it seems really interesting. Even though like it like so sometimes some of these movies, even though they are cartoons and they're supposed to be catered to kids, have like a very deep message that adults can definitely get.
Difficult, quite frankly, to even picture such a time. Yet creep just a few steps back from the height of the unicorn's economic relevance, and you'll find depictions of unicorns that are thoroughly off-brand and unmarketable. This is a pattern that many mythical beasts follow.
In old mythology,
Just like we could just put a horn on anything, like just add a horn to it and it's magical.
Marketable. This is a pattern that many mythical beasts follow.
in old mythology, most things seem to usually be monstrous and evil, and then some big fantasy IP happened, and then everybody uses that as a reference.
And it seems the unicorn too was once a more chimera-like monstrosity, with the body of a goat, the feet of an elephant, the tail of a pig, and though often overlooked, this awkward adolescence offers further clues as to how the legend evolved. In the natural history of unicorns, Lavers links chimerical unicorn incarnations to ancient peoples' encounters with various real animals, and even the preserved skeletons of Ice Age megafauna like the mammoth or woolly rhinoceros. He goes on to make a more distant connection between tales of the unicorn's flightiness and Central Asian myths of wild spirits, which are
Is this like again like a bad round of telephone? Where you're trying to explain something and maybe things get a little mixed in your communication. So and now we have a unicorn. It's awesome though.
between tales of the unicorn.
Whatever the case might be that we ended up with this, it's pretty cool.
unicorn's flightiness and Central Asian myths of wild spirits, which are thought to originate from sightings of orangutans, though clearly no trace of said animals remained in the legend by the time it reached medieval Europe.
The Silk Road was a marketplace of ideas, and very few people actually traversed the entire Silk Road, like a super long game of telephone.
That unicorns shifted greatly across cultures isn't too surprising, as from dragons to krakens, design and consistency is pretty standard for legendary creatures, but
Oh my god, I used to love that.
to
The
krakens,
magic
design and
dragon.
consistency is pretty
I remember this cartoon. Oh gosh, 1979. Oh man, I didn't realize it was from 79 because I remember watching this. I used to watch the crap out of that.
Isn't too surprising, as from dragons to krakens, design and consistency is pretty standard for legendary creatures, but chimerical variance across unicorn depictions feels distinct. It feels purposeful.
Hmm.
When ancient artists contemplated various unicorn offshoots, there was, and I don't use this term lightly, an element of speculative biology to their depictions, a sense that they were
Do you think too, like, do you think people might have thought after maybe discovering horses and stuff like maybe like in that realm of things that it would be possible to find one that had a horn or like deer, elk, instead of like two antlers, they had a horn and like maybe that was like a thing. I have no idea. I'm just here for the ride and I'm just enjoying everything that he's saying. But like but it does make me wonder some things.
lightly, an element of speculative biology to their depictions, a sense that they were gleefully envisioning how the animals might function. Perhaps this is because these creatures feel uniquely plausible in a way that excites the imagination. I found it hard, while researching for this video, not to get swept up in speculating on how such a hypothetical equine could function, even sharing theories with the people I interviewed.
They have this horn for potentially predation, they might want to fight off a predator. It seems kind of fragile for that. I think it's probably more like a mating display.
It's not the best.
Oh, that's actually not a bad theory. It's not really for protection, but more for like mating. That like that's actually a really, really good angle.
For that, I think it's probably more like a mating display.
It's not the best position for horns for the reasons that like animals have them.
That is true too. Like being straight in the middle of your head, of your forehead, probably keeps you. I mean, like it would be good in some instances, but I feel like it is kind of pretty, not the best well-rounded defense as opposed to like what the other animals that have antlers or tusks or something.
Position for horns for the reasons that like animals have them.
It's fundamentally exciting to imagine how such a creature might slot into an ecosystem, to think of all the variants that could emerge, but inconsistency doesn't sell miracles.
True.
If the unicorn was going to be marketable, its appearance needed to be locked down. Far from its chimeric
I wonder how they settled on the horse.
appearance,
Because clearly we had a lot of other options.
needed to be locked down. Far from its chimeric roots, what makes the contemporary unicorn unique is perhaps its inflexibility. Dragons are not, for example, inherently one color. Some might say green is the default, but a dragon of an alternate hue is not a noticeable subversion. But
That's
ask a
true.
room full of people what color is a unicorn,
Oh yeah, they're always white. That is true. They're always white. Then like I might sound stupid asking this, but like was it the unicorn and then was the unicorn from like Pegasus? Like are they in the same family or are they not? Are they not the same thing? When it comes to stuff like this, I am not well versed at all. I'm very just like, yeah, I think dragons are cool. I think unicorns are cool. Like how does that all play out? Or how is that all like distinguished?
is not a noticeable subversion, but ask a room full of people what color is a unicorn and, well,
white.
White?
Yeah.
White.
It's white. I mean, there's nothing else.
This is
Yeah.
not to say that chromatically variable unicorns are unheard of, but it's understood that these are a purposeful deviation. There is a weirdly rigid ideal of a mayo on white bread unicorn that exists in our heads, something peddlers had been encouraging since the Middle Ages. But this untouchable divine ideal of a unicorn did not come from a sales gimmick. These animals were once considered to be literally holy.
Oh.
Part of how the unicorn managed to sneak into the European zeitgeist in the first place is because Bibles in the Middle Ages made mention of the re'em, a term that was interpreted as unicorn. And if the unicorn had biblical importance, there was an impetus for medieval artists to not only depict it, but depict it consistently.
That's a good point. Yeah, I see, like, I didn't know that. I didn't know that they made an appearance like that, um, in writings, like, for what, the Bible? Like, that would make a lot of sense, though, as to, like, why maybe we have, like, such a presence of them, because obviously there's lots of things from the Bible that we still see everywhere today, like angels, demons, all that stuff. People still draw them, make them, whatever, and that's like been throughout time. So that does make that does make some good sense there.
Impetus for medieval artists to not only depict it, but depict it consistently. But re'em as unicorn is probably a 2,000-year-old Greek mistranslation. The correct term is now thought to be closer to wild ox, potentially even the aurochs, a Pleistocene megafaunal herbivore and ancestor of the modern cow, that likely did survive long enough to make its way into the Hebrew language, in which case re'em is referring to an exceptional creature, just not a single horned one. But the unicorn's tenure as a spiritual symbol had a lasting impact. While earlier Greek accounts describe the unicorn as irritable and territorial, from the medieval period to today, the unicorn has become so closely linked to virtue and purity, most no longer consider it a monster at all.
That's true too. Yeah, I feel like when we look at unicorns and what we think of them as, like, what their personality is, like, they're always kind of like that elusive, pure type of animal, I feel like.
So closely linked to virtue and purity, most no longer consider it a monster at all.
I don't see a unicorn as a monster.
They're not monstrous.
In post-accidental ordainment, the unicorn's dependable, cleaned-up image, compared to your typical legendary beast, perfectly positioned it to take the mercantile world by storm.
That is true.
But considering the
Especially, I would think too, like, I feel like a lot of mythical creatures are kind of considered monsters, right? Like they're not really seen in a positive light, where the unicorn definitely is. I feel like the unicorn is a very, very positive, has a very positive image attached to it.
positioned it to take the mercantile world by storm. But considering the unicorn's medieval religious affiliations, works like Hunt for the Unicorn now again seem out of place. Were people really down with treating a spiritual animal like that just for the elusive promise of a healing horn? Well, kinda. Times were tough. But it's also worth noting that while unicorns were thought of as real creatures, slaying a unicorn was also an action steeped in allegory. Depictions of unicorn hunts are dense with iconography, with some meant to be symbolic representations of courtly love. That's why it traditionally takes a certain kind of person to entrap a unicorn.
So if we're going mythological, you need a maiden.
This aspect of the legend has, over the centuries, linked unicorns themselves to femininity in general, with Beagle's The Last Unicorn helping codify this association by making it an explicit and meaningful part of the text. In courtly pageant narratives, however, the unicorn was exclusively male, considered the symbol of raw medieval machismo, with the horn representing. So the horn was I don't want to get into it. It's exactly.
Okay. Talk about peens now. Okay.
Exactly what you're thinking. And in keeping with medieval hang-ups about coupling, being a maiden wasn't even enough to woo a true unicorn, with one writer attesting that the woman would also have to be aristocratic, but also not too boorish, but also not too small.
So she gotta be rich, not too fat, and not too skinny. Wait, but then what are they gonna do with the unicorns? No. No, no, no. No, we should just think they're cool. We shouldn't be doing that.
And you need at least 2 or 3 maidens, one wouldn't cut it. Which, like, there's a lot to unpack there. But these weird courtly love depictions of unicorns proved quite popular among the aristocracy, further fertilizing the soil from which the unicorn trade would eventually sprout. Indeed, the unicorn enjoyed such a long stint as a respected, not-so-mythical symbol, it's worth investigating how the creature's non-existence ever became culturally accepted. Even moving into the 17th and 18th centuries, some scholars still hope to discover unicorns in some hitherto unmapped corner of the globe. And
I would love that, honestly. Like, if we found some sort of resemblance of a real unicorn, I feel like that'd be so awesome. I feel that'd be so cool. Just because unicorns are cool, I think they're cool.
when that failed, some would try to make their own.
Oh, no.
Upon getting his hands on the remains of a woolly rhinoceros, Prussian naturalist Otto von Guericke decided he'd discovered the bones of a real unicorn, and so he reconstructed this.
That is
Oh my
nightmare
gosh.
fuel.
What is happening? Where's the rest of the body?
Broadly
This is horrifying. This is nothing about this is unicorn. This is a monster. This is scary.
Nightmare fuel.
What is happening? Where's the rest of the body?
Broadly considered among the worst paleontological reconstructions in history, the so-called Magdeburg unicorn manages to look nothing like a woolly rhinoceros or a unicorn.
Yeah.
Indeed, the unicorn itself was struggling to survive the rise of rationalism, with Lavers relaying how French scientist Georges Cuvier determined that a symmetrical horn attached directly in the middle of the forehead would be anatomically impractical. The emergent field of biology was sadly not on the unicorn's side, asserting that the closest the natural world had produced was the keratinous-nosed rhino, which isn't too far off if you squint.
People like to kind of scoff at rhinos, like, oh yeah, sure, haha, they're unicorns. But really, like, they are pretty closely related to horses.
Nevertheless,
Just that, that is a really good point, though. I would say rhinos would be the closest. If I had to think of one, I like something that would be my pick as far as the closest resemblance, or remotely even that could share the same sphere as a unicorn, I would pick a rhino.
Like, oh yeah, sure, haha, they're unicorns. But really, like, they are pretty closely related to horses.
Nevertheless, the dream of finding a traditional unicorn was all but extinct come the 20th century, but the dream of selling them found ways to adapt. If the unicorn was once marketed as a uniquely real creature, today it's marketed as uniquely fantastical. The sparkling unreality is the appeal. The distilled technicolor economics of the unicorn was pioneered by one 80s designer in particular.
I was going to say Lisa Frank. I was going to say that because I feel like I distinctly remember having like quite a bit of Lisa Frank stuff, and I had a lot of unicorn stuff.
Technicolor economics of the unicorn was pioneered by one 80s designer in particular.
There's a very famous artist that shares my last name.
When I was a kid, my parents bought me Lisa Frank merch.
The neon mass market unicorn that Lisa Frank initiated would be imitated by
To this day, I still remember, like, I had folders and notebooks, and people call them binders now, but I had a Lisa Frank Trapper Keeper, and I think I had a pencil case. I was a Lisa Frank big fan. I had lots of stickers and stuff. I really liked it.
The neon mass market unicorn that Lisa Frank initiated would be imitated by copycats across the globe until it became the dominant model of the mythical beasts. It would be overly reductive to say, this is inherently bad, we have to get back to the roots of unicorns, jumping off cliffs. But I do think some acknowledgement should be made for how the intended uniqueness of the unicorn chafes against its current hyper-brandedness. And listen, whenever I make these mythical creature deep dives, I get comments saying I'm overthinking it. To which I say, you're missing out by not overthinking it.
Yeah, I think that's kind of the fun of these things of, I mean, yeah, you could overthink it, but I feel like that's kind of the fun in it. Is you get to dive really deep into something that's really mythical and kind of come up with your own conclusions or what you think, or make up your own scenarios, or try to make it make sense or something. I think that that's kind of entertaining. I think it's cool. Don't listen to those people. Don't listen to those people.
I get comments saying I'm overthinking it. To which I say, you're missing out by not overthinking it. Take my hand and dream with me. I promise you'll have more fun. It is ultimately remarkable how far the unicorn has climbed on such a simple concept. How much art it's inspired, how many kings it's swindled, how many cereal boxes it's sold.
You put a triangle on a thing's head and it's like it enters the cultural conscious for all of time.
The unicorn is a symbol we'll never let go of. We know these magical horses backwards and forward, no longer liable to be tricked by adjacent animals.
Definitely a unicorn.
Yep, unicorn.
That's a rhinoceros.
That is a rhino. That is a narwhal.
That is a monkey.
That is a Sumatran orangutan.
The wonderful people I interviewed had intrinsic answers to even my most ridiculous questions. So would a unicorn pay taxes?
They would figure out some sort of like religious tax exemption.
Unicorns would open up shell companies in random Caribbean islands.
Which made me so happy. For all the cynical bag.
I love that they all like were on board with this and like took it like seriously, but like also with like humor too. I love everybody that contributed to this because it kind of opens up like everybody's kind of thought process on unicorns, and I absolutely love that.
Open up shell companies in random Caribbean islands.
Which made me so happy. For all the cynical baggage that might surround these creatures, they will continue to be part of our stories. And I frankly hope we keep dreaming more up.
There are ways of making it interesting.
It's not in a box. It can do other stuff. You can make it whatever you want to be.
I do love that about it though, that you could like make unicorns into so many different things because they are so mythical and magical that they could be designed in. I feel like you have like unlimited possibilities of what you could do with it, and to make them just so different than, just like like this is a unicorn and this is the only thing that they're known for. This is the only thing that they do. So I think creativity wise, it's actually pretty awesome.
It can do other stuff. You can make it whatever you want to be.
Sometimes I finish making a video and feel satisfied that I've reached the bottom of whatever rabbit hole I was discussing. And sometimes I realize there's a second rabbit hole deeper than the first that I still need to chart. Because untangling the history of
That's what happens, man. That's what happens. You find one thing and then the next thing you know, it's 5 a.m. and you are way far from where you started.
unicorns is all well and good, but there's a ton of even weirder horse legends that speak to a larger, deeper mythological conundrum. And you can watch me lose my sanity trying to solve it right now, only on Nebula.
I like this video. This video is really interesting. I love everybody that was involved in this video, all of their inputs, and I think he asked really good questions of them, and just the whole unicorn evolution thing is way, way cool. This was an awesome video. Really enjoyed it. Thank you so much for hanging out with me. I really appreciate you guys being here. Be sure to go and like and subscribe to Curious Archive because he makes some great content and kind of makes you think about some things, or you definitely learn a lot from him. So be sure to go give him some support. But that's going to do it for me. I hope you guys had a great day, and I will see you in the next one.